We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by GraniteGrok.com, New Hampshire's conservative website. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone-stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for 2 hours of news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com. GrokTALK. We're back from our week off. As those of you watching the live stream can see Skip setting up the banner, which we're going to call Bruce. Don't forget to introduce Ed. Oh, Ed Larkin. Yeah, the flasher. Okay. So much responsibility. Welcome to GrokTALK. My name's Steve McDonald. I'm here with Skip Murphy, who is setting up banner. And, of course, Susan Olson is here this week in place of Mr. Rogers, who is in his neighborhood, or actually he's in a different neighborhood, which is why he's not here, because he was at an event last night that we're going to talk about with Marco Rubio out on the seacoast, and Skip was there live streaming the event. Got a lot of video. We're going to have that up at some point in the future when Skip has an extra arm and another head and more time, and he'll be able to get all that work done, because he was out late last night. And,
I was.
So we will bring you the Rubio footage as soon as it's available.
Yes.
We will. Okay. Well, anyway.
I promise. But you won't hear me talk much.
Yeah, yes, we will. Anyway.
No, I didn't.
The sun is shining, water is wet, and Skip talks. Okay?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. All right, this week we have Kevin Bloom coming on the program to talk about SB 120, free speech, and probably whatever else we can manage to squeeze in his segment.
Actually, it's affectionately known as the Shut Your Face, Know Your Place bill.
Okay, yeah, and of course you were part of that whole process, and we'll have you here with him to talk about what's going on and how much longer we have before they put the hammer down on us. And then in the second segment, Jim Rubens will be with us to talk about his race to challenge Jean Shaheen. And in the final segment, Josh Youssef is coming in with William Bear, Billy Bear from Guilford, who is now famous all over the globe for having been arrested at a Guilford, New Hampshire school board meeting for objecting to sexually explicit content in the classroom.
Absolutely.
And we'll have a nice discussion with him about that.
And I am hoping that this will be severe blowback on, I'll say it, those cretins on the school board. I can name, Sue Allen, who is the chair, and Kurt Weber and a couple other folks, that this is the turn turtle type of defense that they've used in the past, where public input they take technically just as it is. And in other words, they're going to sit there stone-faced, so they don't have to work in the process of when a citizen demands redress.
Well, now,
except to wave to the policeman. Yeah, him. Now,
yeah, him.
out.
Exactly. But I'm so glad that Josh was there filming that, and I think there were a couple of other people there filming as well. Our good friend Rosemary was there, and
Channel 9 was there.
Channel 9.
Yeah, I felt sorry.
I haven't seen any of their footage.
Well, actually, it was pretty good. They have used some of Josh's as well, but the Channel 9, it turned out that in talking with somebody last night from Channel 9, the blonde lady right next to and in front of Billy Bear was the Channel 9 reporter, and deer in headlights kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
she didn't know how to respond because she was part of the action instead of reporting on it.
Wow.
I think it's always interesting when you have these little fiefdoms that exist in towns, these boards and committees, and then like the news shows up, or and then all of a sudden you've got all this national attention, and they're like,
oops.
Well, Marco Rubio mentioned it last night.
Oh, the Guilford thing?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, and according to the most esteemed wife, it was on The View as well.
I've never watched that. You would have to tie me to a chair and beat me with a stick. And then turn on the television, because I would not watch that.
Well, she happened to be just channel surfing, and she noticed that. And it's like, if these guys wanted to stonewall, this is the worst way to do it.
Well, part of the problem with this going forward, though, is the new Heredians has appointed a guy to the New Hampshire Board of Education who is so completely and utterly opposed to parents having any say in what their children learn. A guy named Bill Duncan.
Yeah, Bill Duncan. I was likening that to the UN putting these countries like Iran on the Human Rights Commission.
Absolutely, or in charge of women's affairs.
Women's affairs.
Thing.
Yeah, we believe in genital mutilation, stoning, second class, treat women like chattel. But we're going to be on the Human Rights Commission.
No, that's our religious beliefs, and we're entitled to that. So shut up.
Yeah, cut the hands off of thieves.
Absolutely. Well, that's kind of an Old Testament thing, but nevertheless, the thing with Mr. Duncan, though, is he is a plaintiff suing the state of New Hampshire over a piece of legislation passed, 2 years ago, education tax credits that would allow businesses to take a credit from their income if they make a donation to a scholarship fund to help kids get out of trapped in zip codes where the school isn't so good or the parents don't like the school, or it's a school district where
it's Guilford.
Or it's Guilford. That's where I was headed. And so he sued the state saying, well, it's the state's money and you can't do that and this and that and the other. Well, the only thing that happened on that lawsuit is that those monies, those scholarships will not be given to a religious school. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's the only win he got out of that. But the governor, her radiance, filed a friend of the court brief in support of Mr. Duncan's lawsuit, suing the state. So how can that be that we have two people opposed to public education, at least to parental choice and school choice, on the school board for 5 years? 5 years this guy's going to be on there.
It's not a case where he's against public education. He
wants government. It's not public, it's government education.
Yes, only government public education. That's it. No other form is permissible under him. It's sort of like what he has done, what Maggie Hassan has shown to do is what happens with the EPA. So all of these environmental NGOs, non-government organizations like the Sierra Club and the Wildlife Fund and all that stuff, they will sue the EPA to force the EPA to make a ruling that they like. The EPA kind of winks at them and says, okay, we'll change that. Oh, by the way, we owe you money now because of this lawsuit. So now the NGOs get the money, and then the NGOs go, hey, we've got money for more lawyers. Let's go sue about this. So not only do they get their ideological way to deindustrialize the rest of us, but they're getting paid by the government to do so. And that's similar to what's going on here where Bill Duncan doesn't like all of these the disruptive technology, as it were, of charter schools, home schools, the whole bit, online schools, against his union buddies.
Well, I mean, it will keep some of the riffraff out of Phillips Exeter, I'm sure. And that's probably not a bad thing for Her Radiance's husband. But
Mr. Radiance.
Mr. Radiance.
Yes.
There's not a whole lot of light there.
There's very little. There may be some reflected light, perhaps. Dim bulb. But it's unconscionable, and the public outcry against this guy, except in Seacoast Online's newspapers, that he's a war hero and a businessman who sold his business for $500 million. So this is the kind of guy that should be in charge. I thought they hated capitalists, but unless it's theirs, I guess, huh?
And that's what it's really come down to. I think everything has become the progressive mantra has come true. The political is the personal, and the personal is the political. There is no separating the two anymore.
No, and what was it we learned in that class a while back, that politics is simply the adjudication of power.
Yes.
Pretty much.
And we know where the power is now.
We do right now. And there may be legislation introduced into the next session that allows for the removal of people from these appointed positions.
We definitely need that. Hey, for those of you who aren't listening to the live stream but have listened to this on a podcast and want to be more mobile, I wanted to remind you that if you go to Stitcher.com, you can download the Stitcher app, which is good on any device and any operating system, and you can take us anywhere, everywhere, including everything else that's on Stitcher, news, music, and all that good stuff. So check that out. and put it on your mobile device. You can use it on Android tablets like Nooks and readers and things that run Android software and have a speaker on them or a headset connection of some sort. And you can listen to our program and a lot of other people's programs anywhere and everywhere you have wireless or cellular connection.
Well, but after next July 1st, if you do it in your car, you can be arrested.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about all the things that happened in the 2 weeks while we were gone, and a lot of things did happen. We had the paint tax got killed, and the minimum wage got killed in the Senate of all places. You know,
yeah. What happened there?
I don't know. They must have had a moment of clarity. The casino gambling bill did in fact die in the House. By
one vote, right?
It died by one vote, and then they didn't have an opportunity to reconsider. And so they reconsidered it the following week, and it failed. The reconsideration vote fell by 20 votes. So people were like, no, we're done with this year. We'll wait for Lou to come up with a new one for next year.
That would be perennial New Hampshire State Senator Lou D'Alessandro,
Lou Millennium Gaming D'Alessandro, who's built his empire on some very thin shoulders.
Wow.
Gambling, you know, for 30 years they failed to pass it, but keep bringing it back. You know, you're guaranteed to miss 100% of the shots you never take, right? So there you go, Lou. You get out there and you keep bringing that bill back until we manage to get you out of the Senate.
You can't win if you don't play.
Almost happened.
HB 1360, of course, as Susan mentioned, the cell phone ban has passed both legislatures and is heading to the Governor Nanny Hassan, who I expect will probably sign it as fast as she can. It's a piece of garbage bill. Go look it up and read the very sketchy language, which I wrote about this week. Dartmouth is being investigated by the Department of Education, Bureau of Civil Rights, because apparently 55 universities across the nation are, but Dartmouth is in New Hampshire, so that caught my attention. Apparently the rape culture is so severe and women are being sexually abused on these campuses to a degree that they're concerned. The federal government's concerned that they are not being permitted to go to school in an environment that's conducive to learning. So it's an equality issue, and they're going to investigate. Nothing will happen, but they will investigate. So it's an
maybe they can
topic.
Carry a gun on campus.
Well, see, I did write about that. I noticed that one of the best ways to reduce rape is to allow a woman to carry a gun on a university campus, which, of course, they can't. Not at Dartmouth. Not at. Yeah. Your fingers up. What?
I was just waiting for you to finish.
I'm not done. It's gonna take a minute. I got a couple more things. Brookline Democrats made fools of themselves over the last 2 weeks after the FedEx shooting, where they announced that it was this town with everybody has to have a gun. You know, every adult has to own a firearm.
Kennesaw.
Right, Kennesaw, Georgia. And the shooting, of course, occurred in one of the few places in town where guns are prohibited. So that meme went away so fast that the mainstream media covered it for about 36 hours, and then it vanished.
Yeah.
But the Brookline Democrats put up a nice little meme, which I then duplicated to make fools of them. And, of course, they were fools, and now we're going to come up with a new saying, as dumb as a Brookline Democrat.
I like it. Well, weren't they fools to begin with?
Well, yes, they were. But sometimes they actually step out into the light thinking that they are brave souls challenging power, and then we club them like baby seals back into their little den. And that's
nice
how that
analogy.
works.
I like that.
Thank you very much. Accuracy in Media's James Simpson posted an article on the AIM.org website that included an extensive section on vote fraud all over the country and in New Hampshire, where he highlighted Ed Nail. There's some video, some links to CNHT, and some links to some posts on GrokTALK.com. So go to AIM.org and look for James Simpson, and you'll be able to read that. It's pretty good. He covers a couple different states. He talks about the cross-check. He talks about the left's culture of attempting to intimidate people through the whole vote fraud thing, the way they do it, and he does a great job of explaining it. He's working on a book on the topic, and New Hampshire will be featured in that as well. So, what else we got? We talked a little bit about the Rubio thing. We can go over that a little bit. There's so many things that happens when you don't do a show for 2 weeks.
We've got Senate Republicans dropping like flies. Isn't that fun? We've got Mr. Odell retiring. We've got
we had JP on 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and you've got Bragdon choosing between $100 a year and $180,000 a year. I'm sure that took a while.
I could make that decision pretty quick.
Easy peasy, yeah.
There's a bunch of zeros all the way around.
I like that. That could be a great graphic, huh? But we've got that happening, and filing period starts the 4th, 3rd.
Coming up real soon.
Very soon. and lots of folks are getting ready to run, and
Yep.
I think a lot of it's going to be surprising and pleasantly surprising.
We met one last night. Howard Pearl is going to run against John Reagan again.
Yep, met Howard at Merrimack County Republican Committee meeting a while back. He hosted a meeting out at his house.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
When I was there to deliver, they actually asked me to speak.
That's
at one
right,
point.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and that was fun. I enjoyed doing that.
We're gonna have
After
to,
throwing you out the week before.
Exactly.
The month before, yep. Yeah, that was fun.
It's a love-hate relationship. All right, we're going to take 60 seconds. We'll be right back.
New Hampshire is famous for scenic drives, but they're tough to enjoy when you're on your way to the doctor. Because Obamacare limits your choices, some will have to drive more than an hour to see a doctor. What's health insurance worth if care isn't there when you need it? Jean Shaheen voted for Obamacare, putting your doctors and hospitals further out of reach. Tell Senator Shaheen Obamacare is not working for New Hampshire.
So, lots going on. Welcome back to GrokTALK. I'm Steve McDonald here with Skip Murphy and Susan Olson, bringing you news and opinion you could only get, obviously, from the safest podcast in New Hampshire and New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GrandandGrok.com.
I mentioned that to some of the press last night. They kind of looked at me kind of funny. And then I had to point out, because we had the new version of the Grok banner where it says, fire-breathing, car-charging, gun-toting. And then they kind of looked at us with wider eyes.
Oh, my.
We
Were
are
they scared?
Yeah.
Good.
Notice how none of that other stuff seems to bother them. Well, actually, it does. They're probably upset about the outspoken part and the rabble-rousing and the freedom-loving. They don't.
No.
They'd like us to all just.
Well, you got to remember, these were the national guys. We're lowly bloggers
That's right.
that had more room on the press riser than they did. Thank you to our friends out on the seacoast, because they watch out for us, because they know we try to do not just the opining, but the citizen journalism as well. And we do and show up at places where the mainstream press wouldn't dare to show up. Or don't bother
They
to.
just don't bother.
They don't bother to show
don't
up.
bother.
But, you talk about gun-toting, just let me give a little shout-out. Tomorrow's Mother's Day. And the Second Amendment Sisters is having their annual fashion show tomorrow, which includes some very innovative concealed carry lingerie. And, it's called a flashbang. And
I thought all lingerie was concealed carry.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but perhaps
Are you
yes.
ahead of...
Different weapon, but
Certainly that,
You
but tomorrow's going to be a lot of fun. I'm not going to make it. I've got classes, handgun classes tomorrow, but it's always a fun thing. And gun toting.
And where is this being...
This is going to be down at the Wilson Hill pistol range in Manchester. So a lot of fun.
At least the temperature's supposed to be close to 80 degrees tomorrow.
Well, that's inside though, unfortunately.
No, outside. That's what WMUR weather said. That's what I thought.
No.
She's gonna be
the
inside.
fashion show is going to be inside.
well, that's good because it wouldn't be a lot of fun with the black flies.
That's true. That's true. And so I'm going to be dipped from head to toe tomorrow.
If you don't have black flies in the spring, you're not missing much. I'll tell you.
Absolutely.
Actually, you're missing a lot. You can't even take the dogs out, and you're like,
Yeah, I know.
they get in your eyes and your ears, and
But that'll be fun tomorrow, and it's a good afternoon.
Yeah, so a lot of women are taking pistol lessons. Long gun lessons.
Yes, and interestingly enough, there's a fair amount of them like me that have had a lifetime of bad habits. You learn to shoot as a young woman, and you're kind of good at it, and you think you know stuff, but then you go through one of these training courses and learn about your bad habits and try to correct them. So it's not a bad thing. But it's kind of fun to go places where your husband isn't going, don't do that, or hold it this way, or let me show you, which is the worst of it. Let me do that for you. So it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing. Women and handguns is...
Yes, and you are an NRA certified instructor.
Indeed. And there are a number of women in this state who are certified instructors. And teaching women to safely handle firearms is almost as fun as watching that first great big grin on their face when they're out on the range, finally out of the classroom. You've had the test. You're going, oh Lord, get out on the range, and you put a couple hundred rounds for a target, and there's this big grin on their face, and they're like, oh, I like this. So that's the really fun part.
The real empowering.
It is empowering. It is empowering, but it's always, again, practice, practice, practice. Muscle memory. Just going to a class once a year or heading outside isn't enough. You need to stay with it. Like anything, you lose your skills if you don't practice. So always get outside when the weather's not, even when the weather's not good. Actually, you probably should get out more when the weather's not good, because you may not always have to defend yourself in the summertime.
Actually, odds are pretty good you're more likely to have to defend yourself in the summertime than in the winter, because it's cold.
Yeah, well, even so, it's good to get outside. Except the problem is the brass freezes to the snow, so you got to wait just a minute before you can pick it up.
Well, that's why you always have a sharp edge on your snow shovel.
If one has a snow shovel.
Wing.
I like that. Okay.
Yes.
So, legislation. We're closing in on the session this year. Thank God.
Oh yes.
What a year.
Imagine what New Hampshire would be like if we had a full-time legislature like they do in other places. There's a good reason to have a part-time, because they can only do so much badness to you.
It'd be like a forced march. It already feels like a forced march.
It is a forced march.
This whole session has been exhausting.
It has.
Just absolutely exhausting. Because anything that's actually got a chance to pass is bad.
Yeah. But you think about the state of Texas, my home state, and they have a part-time legislature that meets every other year for about 120 days and manages a fair amount more money than New Hampshire does.
We should go back to ours. We used to be like that.
Yeah, and I don't understand why they feel the need to meet every year.
Well, they're in the Northeast. I mean, think about it. You're a state legislator in New Hampshire. You're a state legislator in New Hampshire, and you're talking to your other state legislator buddies at whatever Democrat watering hole these plunderers hang out at. And, so-and-so in Massachusetts is making big money, and they're working all year round, and so-and-so in Maine is, making whatever, and then so-and-so in Vermont, and you're just sitting there going, yeah, well, 120 days every 2 years, and, you feel like about this big in the world of nanny state plunderers, right? So you work real hard to make up a reason why you need to be there longer and more often. And of course, they continue. They haven't brought up, I don't think in a while, the effort to make it a professional legislature, 250 members in the House. But
it's certainly an amateur legislature.
It comes up. Well, it's safer that way. I mean, most of what they do you can undo the next session if it's, if you get the right people in. But, I think 2008 or 2009, Kathy Sullivan had brought up again the idea that we need a professional legislature, and they always do that, and they do it. They probably do it more often when Republicans are in charge, but it keeps coming up, and it's because that's what they want. They want a full-time professional legislature that makes real money, and they say, well, that way people could do it full-time, and they wouldn't have to have a job or own a business or anything else, and they could be a legislator. And I'm like, that's the last thing anybody should want, is somebody who makes their living telling you what to do.
What new laws do we need? Seriously.
Well,
what new laws do we need?
They look at it. Remember how progressives look at things. They believe that we are not able to run our lives without the helping hand of government in every single aspect of our lives. You look at the cell phone ban. Yes, distracted drivers. I did the math. I put it up in a post. I should find it. But it turns out that if we're lucky, we've got like half a death over the last few years, maybe due to cell phone usage. Everything else for distracted driving has much bigger cases.
You mean like putting on mascara?
Yeah, or changing the radio, or eating, or whacking the kid behind you.
Or having the dog in your lap.
Or being tired.
Or being tired.
Yeah, all that other stuff.
Or following somebody from Massachusetts.
It's the awful, evil perversion of we need to run your life, and the precautionary principle, which basically says if it only saves one life. It's like, unfortunately, you then turn into a police state because you've got so many laws that tell you what you can't do or what you have to do, and in the way that you have to do it. There's no room for freedom anymore.
No.
But they don't seem to get that this is the death by 1,000 cuts.
And then they write these stupid bills like HB 1360, with language that says electronic devices, handheld devices, says things like immediate proximity to your ear.
What about a pacemaker?
What's the immediate proximity to your ear? Well, the restriction against 18 years and younger says that you can't use any electronic device, handheld, or integrated. GPS, phone, if there's a system in your car that allows you to access the internet or anything like that.
What about the radio?
That's what I just wrote about. The radio's electronic, the ignition system's electronic, the lights are electronic. The way it's written, in theory, a cop could pull you over for going like this and poking at the radio. And then they have other language like anything that you do that appears to take your eyes off the road. Well, looking over my shoulder does that.
How about sneeze?
It's very vague. So now you've got this piece of legislation that the governor's going to sign that has this wide open sort of interpretation. And, the only way it's ever going to get resolved is if we repeal it or if it goes to the court, which, of course, we always want it to go to the court so they can tell us what immediate proximity means and what electronic device means and what handheld means and all these other things, which, like you were saying, and we've talked about it a million times, millions and millions of transactions are engaged in vehicles in this state every single day where perfectly responsible people do things that cause nobody else any harm. Now they can't do those things because of this stupid piece of legislation.
So what about seatbelt laws?
Yeah, we don't have those, though.
The federal government keeps trying to bribe us. The last time it was $3.62 per person.
Well, now, what about if you're on a motorcycle and you're playing the stereo?
I'm sure,
Is it just motor vehicles? Is it motorcycles? Is it
I read the bill, and
sleds?
I think it's any motor vehicle, except for
tricycle.
What about your blinker? How about if you turn your blinker on?
There's a lot of things. You should read the bill. It's not very long.
I did read the bill. Yeah, I did. And it was after I spewed my coffee out all over it. It got a little soggy, but it's ridiculous.
And this is worse than the one they had before it. 1120, I think it was. I don't remember what the number was. 1117.
Why couldn't they just say distracted driving, period?
Well, we have a law for that.
I
that
know.
wasn't
Why do
enough.
we need another one?
Because it might save a life.
There is an entire productivity issue associated with this too. The lost productivity that will cost us jobs, and we'll get. Yeah. We might not get to that because our next segment we're going to have Kevin here if he's here, and that'll be our next guest. So we'll just move on to our next segment. Kevin Bloom will be back hopefully next segment. If not, we will talk about SB 120, free speech, and the destruction of freedom in New Hampshire. This is GrokTALK. We'll be right back.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. If you have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
The Center for Redress of Grievances, LLC, was established officially November of 2012 for the purpose of becoming a media outlet for those individuals who believe and have documentation that they've been unjustly treated by local, state, or federal government agencies. Our mission is to document their stories and to get them out to the public. By collecting and organizing this data, the Center for Redress will be able to better show the public and our legislature that there are issues with some of our government agencies that may be widespread and need to be addressed. Although we are not a nonprofit, we do provide all of our services at no cost to our clients. All of our services may include screening interviews, documentation gathering, audio-video of court hearings, and production of Speak Up, which is our television show. We're funded exclusively through sponsorship of Speak Up and our advertisers on our website. We hope to help those individuals who, with well-documented stories, need to be heard with credibility when the other agencies and media sources turn a deaf ear to them. You can go to our website at www.centerforredress.com, and check us out. Anything you would like to donate is truly appreciated, and we will put it to good use.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning. You're listening to GrokTALK.
Grok TV.